Valen Cassidy positioned himself at the threshold of something that should have been impossible. A 100-acre ranch changed hands for a mere $1. Under the blistering afternoon sun, a weathered wooden fence ran to the horizon, while the main house loomed in the distance as if a neglected prayer. Yet when he slipped the creaky front door open 3 hours later, he realized the bargain came with a detail the seller had omitted. A person was already residing there. The sound struck him first. Soft footsteps above, deliberate and hush-like, hinted at someone moving without drawing attention. Valen came to a halt in the doorway, his hand still clutching the brass handle. He had expected the house to be empty. Boom. Cartweaver had promised it when they sealed the deal at the land office. The man had said no one had been there for years, his gaze drifting away. You will have it all to yourself. Yet there she stood. A young woman emerged at the upper landing of the wooden staircase, dark hair cascading freely over her shoulders. She wore a simple dress that had weathered better days. She neither screamed nor fled. Instead, she gazed down at him with an odd expression. Her look was not fear, but a sort of resignation, as though she had anticipated this moment for ages. You must be the new owner, she declared, her voice steady against the circumstances. I am Lunara Rookhaven, and I have been tending to this place. Valen's thoughts ran wild. Taking care of it? For whom? And why had Cartweaver neglected to mention her? He studied her face, looking for falsehood, but found only a quiet fortitude that reminded him of his own mother in hard times. The seller had not mentioned anyone living here, he realized. Lunara descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate and graceful. Boone Cartweaver is unaware of all this ranch's secrets, she replied. The land holds secrets that surpass what the deeds record. She turned to the window and drew back the faded curtain, unveiling the sprawling grassland beyond. I have been here for 3 years. This place saved my life when I had no other refuge. I have patched the roof, cleaned the well, and mended the fences. One could say we have been looking after each other. Valen sensed his meticulously laid future shifting beneath his feet. He had saved every penny for 5 years to purchase his own land, to create something truly his. Even in neglect, this ranch embodied everything he had dreamed of. But now, standing in the dusty room beside this unexpected woman, he realized that his $1 purchase had claimed something far more complex than property. Why did Cartweaver sell it so cheaply? He asked, though he feared the answer would alter everything. Lunara turned from the window, and for the first time, fear flickered across her cheek. Because, she whispered, he's not the only one who knows I'm here. And others? They're not coming for deals. Valen placed his worn leather satchel upon the wooden table. Rat limit exceeded. Please join. https discord.gg9g5wkvtn8s. Men with rugged, weathered looks earned from years of demanding what they desired. They streamed out of their horses roughly 50 yards from the house. Their distance was close enough to pose danger, yet far enough to avert instant conflict. That's Riverwalker Stringbinder, Lunara murmured, her voice tight with recognition. He serves the Ravencrest brothers. If he's present, it means they have finally found me. Valen observed the trio arranging themselves in a loose semicircle, thereby sealing the principal exit paths of the estate. Their motions were practiced and synchronized. They were not aimless wanderers. They were pursuers who had located their quarry. What precisely did you seize from them? He inquired, trying to grasp the situation he was entering. Lunara stepped away from the window and crouched beside a loose floorboard adjacent to the hearth. Using swift, precise motions, she pried it up and extended her hand into the concealed cavity below. Upon standing, she held a leather satchel and a rolled bunch of documents. "This is the deed to the most abundant gold claim in the region," she stated, unrolling one paper and the survey maps that pinpointed the deepest lodes. "My father devoted 10 years to charting every vein and gold pocket within those hills. Thematic's brothers murdered him over it, afterward realizing he had concealed the genuine documents." Valen examined the elaborate sketches on the map, taking note of meticulous annotations and precise calculations. It was more than a mere claim. It was a treasure map crafted by a person familiar with every corner of the terrain. Its value amounted to a fortune. Lunara affirmed that it could purchase half the jurisdiction, and sufficient for them to pursue me across 3 states. A sharp whistle from beyond caused both to swivel toward the window. Riverwalker Stringbinder had dismounted and paced slowly toward the dwelling, his hand loosely on his firearm belt. His companions stayed on their mounts, scanning their environs for any movement. "Lunara Rookhaven," Stringbinder shouted, his voice echoing across the yard. "We know you're inside. It's time to resolve this like members of society." Valen sensed his pulse quicken. 3 years of carpentry had endowed him with solid hands and a calm resolve. Yet he had never encountered men of this nature. Nonetheless, seeing Lunara's pallor, he recognized he could not simply surrender her to them. "There's a back exit," she whispered urgently. "Through the kitchen and beneath the creek. You could escape while they concentrate on the house's front. What about yourself?" She smiled with sorrow. "I am exhausted from fleeing. Perhaps it's time to confront them." Valen fixed his gaze on her, noting the resignation in her tone. She was surrendering, prepared to sacrifice herself so he could elude the quagmire his $1 buy had produced. Yet as Stringbinder's boots neared the front porch, sounding like a countdown, Valen chose a move that astonished even him. "No," he declared firmly, heading toward the window. "Now it's my property, and I don't remember inviting anyone onto it." Stringbinder halted at the porch's lowest step, looking up at the house with a chilling grin that foreshadowed violence. Valen stepped onto the front porch, ensuring Stringbinder could see him clearly. The afternoon sun spilled his shadow long across the weathered boards, and he kept his voice steady despite his heart pounding. He shouted, "This is private property," he added. "You and your friends need to move out." Stringbinder's grin broadened, but it was devoid of warmth. Now it seems the young woman has found a protector. He advanced another step, each movement shaking his spurs. "The point is, friend, we're not here to make trouble with you. We simply want to talk to Miss Rookhaven about property that belongs to our employer." Valen replied, "I don't see any legal documents," while noting how Harper's companions had arranged themselves to guard every approach. "As far as I know, everything on this ranch now belongs to me." Stringbinder laughed, a sound like gravel in a tin cup. "Legal documents. That's amusing." He pointed toward the house. "I believe Miss Rookhaven has been squatting there for years, probably rummaging through anything of value left by the former owners. I would not be surprised if she had found items that should be returned to their rightful owners." Inside the house, Valen heard Lunara moving quietly, perhaps stashing the papers in a safer place. He had to buy her time. But Stringbinder was clearly growing impatient with the discussion. Stringbinder continued, "How about this?" his hand resting openly on the gun handle. He suggested, "Why don't we bring her here and discuss this like sensible folks? No one needs to get hurt over a simple misunderstanding." Despite the cooling afternoon breeze, sweat gathered at the base of Valen's neck. Facing 3 against 1 was a risk no sensible man would take, especially when the cause was unclear. Yet, staring into Stringbinder's icy eyes, he realized this was not about justice or legal rights. These men would seize whatever they wanted, no matter who suffered the fallout. "She's not here," he lied, hoping his words seemed more credible than they did. Stringbinder's expression grew grim. "That's intriguing, because the sharp-eyed associate over there swears he saw 2 figures in that window just 5 minutes ago." He gestured toward one of the mounted men. "Bram has a knack for spotting details others overlook." The man, named Bram, tipped his hat mockingly. His rifle lay casually across his saddle, ready for rapid use. "Perhaps you saw shadows?" Valen offered that suggestion. "Old houses trick with light." "Perhaps." Stringbinder agreed, though his tone implied he didn't believe such a thing. "Or maybe you're shielding someone who has caused substantial financial loss to my employer." Such devotion toward an unfamiliar person could cause a man to question his own role in the matter. The danger had become unmistakable. Stringbinder implied that Valen himself might be involved in the theft they were after. It proved to be a shrewd tactic. He was offered an escape by turning away from Lunara, or else he should expect the fallout of staying beside her. From behind him over the window, Valen detected the faintest creak of the floorboards. Lunara continued to stir within, and Stringbinder's companion would notice even the slightest noise. "Time is running out," Stringbinder remarked, drawing out a pocket watch and feigning a check. "I grow impatient when people deceive me," he said. Their silence hung like a taut rope, poised to snap. Valen sensed Stringbinder scrutinizing his face, hunting for any sign of wavering. Behind him, the house had fallen silent entirely. It was far too quiet. Either Lunara had located an ideal hiding place, or she was gearing up for a desperate act. "You know what?" "I think," Harper replied, shutting his pocket watch with a sharp click. "I believe you purchased this place with full knowledge of what awaited you here. Perhaps Miss Rookhaven offered you a portion of her loot in exchange for keeping her hidden." "You're mistaken," Valen answered, though he could not deny that the claim seemed plausible. "I purchased this ranch honestly yesterday morning. It was the first time I ever set foot on this land." Stringbinder exchanged looks with his mounted allies, a silent conversation passing among them. Bram, the man, shifted in his saddle, and Valen noticed his hand move subtly toward his rifle. "This is what will happen," Stringbinder declared, his tone assuming that of a man who commands obedience. "You will step aside, and we will search this house. Once we locate what we seek, we will make our exit. If you resist, you will be buried on your own estate before dusk." Valen's mouth dried, yet he stood firm. "And if I refuse?" Stringbinder's grin grew colder still. "Then we will search irrespective, and you will not be present." The front door creaked softly behind Valen, and he felt his heart halt. Lunara appeared on the porch, chin lifted defiantly, even as fear flickered in her eyes. She shifted into riding gear, with a small pack hanging over her shoulder. "Enough," she said firmly. "This man has nothing to do with our part. He will ignore Maine since." She gently interrupted him. "You've already exceeded what anyone had expected of you." Stringbinder once clapped his hands together, the clack echoing sharply in the afternoon breeze. "Did you notice how effortlessly that was? Let's talk about those papers you seized." "Which papers?" Lunara responded, voice steady. "The documents that confirm our employer's rightful claim to the Quaid mine," Stringbinder said calmly. "The files your father concealed before his unfortunate accident." "My father perished in a collapse caused by your employer's unsafe mining methods," Lunara retorted. "There were no documents to conceal." Stringbinder's veneer of politeness began to fracture. "Stop playing tricks with me, girl. We know you possess them, and we know they're here. The only issue is whether we dismantle this place, piece by piece, to uncover them." Lunara fixed her gaze on him, yet Valen noticed her hands tremble slightly. Whatever papers she had presented were her sole bargaining chip, and she was on the verge of losing it. At that moment, the sound of more riders nearby reverberated across the valley, racing in from the eastern trail. Stringbinder turned toward the approaching hoofbeats, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. The new riders were still far off, yet they approached hard and fast, dust billowing from their wake like a dark cloud on the horizon. Bram Stringbinder barked to his sharp-eared companion. "How many?" The man squinted into the distance, shielding his eyes with a hand. "4. Perhaps 5 riders. Can't determine who they are from here, but they're forcing their horses hard." Stringbinder's jaw clenched. This could spell trouble. He pivoted back to Lunara, his earlier calm gone entirely. "Plan altered. We'll secure those documents from you now before whoever that is decides to complicate matters." "I told you I have none," Lunara insisted, though her voice wavered. "Search the house," Stringbinder commanded his men. "Strip it open if necessary." Valen stepped forward, blocking the porch steps. "You won't get near my home." Stringbinder's gun snatched from its holster, in a flash so swift that Valen barely caught it. The icy metal touched his forehead, and he smelled gun oil and leather from Stringbinder's gloves. "Last chance to think this through," Stringbinder growled. "Step aside, or I'll finish you right here." The approaching riders drew nearer, close enough that their individual horses were visible. Valen could see they rode in formation, disciplined and purposeful, not random travelers, but men with a clear goal. "Riverwalker Stringbinder." The shout emanated from the lead rider, still 200 yards away, yet closing rapidly. "Step away from those people." Stringbinder's eyes widened as he recognized them. And for the first time since his arrival, Valen observed genuine concern cross his features. "Damn," he murmured under his breath. "Friends of yours?" Lunara inquired, though her tone implied she already knew. "Sheriff Blissbornne," Stringbinder replied, his teeth clenched. "Someone must have sent forward a warning." He glanced back at his companions, their nervousness growing with their exposed stance. The riders thundered closer, and Valen could now see the distinctive sparkle of badge metal on the lead rider's vest. A sheriff and his deputies rode with unmistakable authority. Yet Stringbinder's firearm remained pressed against Valen's skull, his finger clamped to the trigger. "This complicates matters," Stringbinder murmured, more to himself than the others. "Still, it doesn't alter the course of events," he added. Sheriff Blissbornne and his men were now within shouting distance, their horses lathered with sweat from the grueling ride. The sheriff was a wiry figure, gray whiskers framing a weather-worn face that reflected years of confronting circumstances just like this. "Drop your arms!" Blissbornne shouted as his men spread into a semicircular formation around Stringbinder's squad. "No one should die today," Stringbinder growled, tightening the gun against Valen's forehead. "Perhaps no one needs to perish," he countered. "Whether that's true hinges on your willingness to allow justice to unfold." "Sheriff, just ice," Blissbornne rasped, laughing bitterly. Is that what you mean by pursuing an innocent woman through 3 territories? Stringbinder's eyes grew shadowed. That woman is a thief who has long carried stolen goods. We have come to reclaim what rightfully belongs to legitimate business interests. The Ravencrest brothers' business interests. Sheriff Blissbornne interjected, his tone thick with disdain. I've witnessed enough of their brand of justice to recognize its form. The tension hanging over them seemed sharp enough to slice with a blade. Stringbinder's forces were now outnumbered, yet they retained leverage through the hostages. Sweat dripped along Valen's back as he attempted to stay still, the gun's barrel pressed against his skin. This is what will happen, Stringbinder declared, his voice echoing across the courtyard. Miss Rookhaven and I will have a private discussion about those papers. Anyone who steps in will witness this courageous owner suffer. Sheriff Blissbornne raised an arm, instructing his deputies to maintain their positions. The standoff tightened like a taut wire poised to snap. All waited for the other to initiate the first action that would decide life or death. Stringbinder, the sheriff said cautiously, you're making a mistake. The Ravencrest brothers don't control this land, and they certainly don't command me. Perhaps not, Stringbinder answered. He never blinked his gaze from Blissbornne, keeping the gun firmly pressed against Valen's head. Yet they possess enough judges and politicians to make your existence perilous should you meddle with lawful commerce. Lunara edged forward, catching Stringbinder's focus. Stop this, she urged firmly. You want the papers? Fine. Rate limit? Exceeded. Please join. https://discord.gg9g5wkvtn8s. Even if you accept me, the Ravencrest brothers will never cease searching for her. Those documents carry an excessive value. Sheriff Blissbornne slowly dismounted and stepped nearer, saying, Maybe. However, that matters only tomorrow. The issue at hand today is that you must lay down that firearm before anyone suffers harm. Stringbinder's hand visibly trembled, and Valen, with increasing dread, sensed the man was about to choose a path that would end all of their lives. Stringbinder's desperation swelled to its limit. Wildly snarling, he drove Valen back and hurled his gun at Sheriff Blissbornne. Yet the unexpected motion unseated him. Valen wobbled but successfully leapt sideways from the porch as the initial bullet fired. Blissborne's deputies acted with seasoned exactness. 2 shots countered Stringbinder's barrage, and the outlaw collapsed onto the earth, his arms spinning futilely amid the mud. The whole altercation ended in moments, leaving only the reverberating gunfire and the lingering scent of gunpowder in the afternoon. Is everyone okay? Blissbornne shouted, his rifle still aimed at Stringbinder's inert body. Valen rose from behind a wooden crate, examining himself and finding only bruised ribs. Lunara hurried down from the porch, visage pallid yet resolute. I'm fine, she declared, then gazed upon Stringbinder. Is he dead? The deputy asked after verifying a pulse. He was struck squarely in the chest. Sheriff Blissbornne sheathed his firearm and faced Lunara, his face betraying sincere sympathy. Miss Rookhaven, I'm sorry it took so long to achieve justice for your father. If you are prepared to testify concerning those documents and your family's plight, we can finally bring the Ravencrest brothers to account. Lunara nodded, wiping tears from her eyes. I've waited 3 years to find a listener, she added, pointing at Valen. The documents remain in the house. Everything my father recorded about the mine, including proof that the Ravencrest brothers forged the papers claiming ownership. 2 hours later, with statements filed and evidence gathered, Blissbornne and his men departed, carrying Stringbinder's body, vowing to return within a week to escort Lunara to the territorial courthouse. The sun dipped behind distant peaks, tinting the sky orange and purple. Valen and Lunara remained on the porch, watching the dust fade from the rider's wake. Their silence had become comfortable, no longer filled with secrets or threats. "So," Valen finished, "I suppose you'll depart once this settles." Lunara faced him, a faint smile tugging at her mouth. "Where would I go? I've tended this place for 3 years. Abandoning it now feels wasteful. It's my ranch," he said, though his tone was gentle. "True," she answered. "Yet you purchased it for $1, and it arrived with a companion to assist in its management." Moreover, she pointed toward the gently undulating meadow that stretched beyond the homestead. "The land is ample enough for 2 people willing to toil." Valen weighed the proposal, recalling the solitary years he had devoted to saving for his own plot, imagining erecting something enduring. He had envisioned taking the path solo, yet as he stood beside Lunara, witnessing the twilight slip over their common horizon, he understood that certain endeavors thrive through partnership. "Partners?" he inquired, extending his palm. "Partners?" she replied, grasping his hand with resolve. When the first stars twinkled above, they sauntered back inside as a pair, poised to forge the life that a dollar-priced ranch and a fortuitous meeting had rendered attainable. If this story touched you, give it a like and tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in their shoes? Subscribe to Frontier Stories and join us as we continue to tell stories of hope, resilience, and the beautiful, messy truth of Wild West.